I'm Whitney.
I'm Mindy.
And I'm Deb.
We're three best friends who love nerdy things.
Well, some people think we're nerdy, but we think we're pretty awesome.
This is Our Nerdiest Thing.
Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to Our Nerdiest Thing. We have a great episode today to tell you about things that we're loving and things that we're reading and all of the nerdy things that we have. What an intro.
Didn't you say this wasn't going to suck?
I said I'm going to do better this week with the intros.
We're going to talk about things that don't suck.
Yeah, nerdy things that are awesome.
Hey, it's episode 2 of a new format. Give us a break.
It is, yeah. You know,
by the end of this season, you'll be like, why do they say the same thing every time at the beginning?
I need a script. Deb, will you please start us off by telling us about our nerdiest cocktail?
Sure. This week's cocktail is called Why is Everybody Doing Drugs? It has red wine, brandy, fruit, and a bunch of other ingredients that all equal deliciousness. So you can find it at ournerdiestthing.com or on Instagram at Our Nerdiest Thing. And if you listen to Thursday's episode, we'll tell you what it's themed after.
Ooh, thank you. It is delicioso.
It is very, very good.
Muchos gracias, Deb.
De nada. Deb. Whitney.
There is not a Spanish version of, or Spanish language version of Whitney.
I'm going to go ahead and say there's not a Spanish version of Deborah.
According to my high school Spanish teacher, anyway.
Is yours Melinda?
Mine is Melinda, which means my beautiful.
Which is your
I love
actual
that.
name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Melinda.
So
I'm going to, when we go to Craft Weekend this weekend, I'm going to whisper that in your ear to wake you up. Melinda.
Melinda.
I hope I don't punch you.
Abre las ojos. Did you ever see Vanilla Sky? That's what she's saying at the beginning. Abre los ojos. Open your eyes.
Open your
Almost
eyes.
said-
That's in Encanto. At the very end of the movie.
It started in Vanilla Sky.
Oh, that's kind of
Okay,
a
we're
creepy
watching
thing to
that at
know.
Craft Weekend this weekend because that's a mindfuck of a movie you'd love.
Okay, yes. Yes, please.
Well, let's get into our nerd alert. Nerd alert, nerd alert. I want to do that every time. And you know what? I probably will. Nerdy news for this week. I have a couple, if you guys don't mind. That
I
go
have
ahead and
like
get started.
27. So
Yeah, I'll do mine first. One is actual news, and the other is just a shameless plug for myself, really. But Elle Mitchell, a friend, I was going to say friend and fan of the podcast, and then I realized that's pretty presumptuous.
It's okay if Elle has never listened to anything except her episode.
She's
That's
definitely
fine.
a friend of the podcast and a friend of us, too. She's got her newest book coming out a little less than a month. It comes out April 15th. It is called The Pieces We Try to Forget, which is a prequel novella for her book that came out early, or I guess last year, The Pieces We Leave Behind. So The Pieces We Try to Forget is Maddie's mom's story. If you have read Pieces We Leave Behind, you know that her mom is a very interesting, ambiguous kind of character, and that there's some crazy history with her mom and Ezra's dad. So interesting. I'm really excited to read that book. So that comes out April 15th.
They need to read what before the prequel?
They need to read The Pieces We Leave Behind.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And then the other shameless plug for myself, I made memes last week and made a Tessa Bailey one, and she commented with laughing face emojis.
I love that. Did you see also
I was so excited.
that Bryn Weaver shared hers?
No, I didn't see that.
She said, this is also the face when I'm writing it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, we'll have that Instagram post linked in the show notes if you want to go look, because the memes are pretty funny. I am really proud of the job I do as the meme creator. It's
I'm
really
just
fun.
glad you do it and I don't have to.
It's really fun to do.
I will say the one of the best things about Bookstagram is that you fangirl over the authors and then they fangirl back, and that's what makes it so
Yes.
fun. It
Yeah, it
really
is
does.
really
It's
fun.
such a tight community that's really, really neat. So, and Tessa Bailey is always so sweet to us.
Yes.
So, and I'm like, you be sweet on Instagram and dirty in the sheets,
In the
on your
pages.
book sheets. Yeah. Okay, so there are several books that either have just come out or are about to come out that I wanted to plug and that I'm just so head over heels excited for. So the first one is Academy Games. It's by Amber Page. It comes out on March 15th, and it's like Hunger Games but deeper fantasy. So
Ooh.
I have an arc for it. By the time this episode airs, I will have read it, but I've not read it yet. So then we also have Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle Jensen. She's the author of The Bridge Kingdom, which I fell in love with last year. That actually just came out on February 27th. This is a brand new series and kind of has Celtic witchcraft lore in it. It's
Ooh.
really
That sounds
fun,
amazing.
enemies to lovers type of situation. So we also have Trouble by Lex Croucher that just came out on March 5th. Last year I read Gwen and Art and Love, and it's a LGBTQ Arthurs of the Round Table book, and Trouble is also an LGBTQ plus romance, so I'm super pumped about that. The next one is The Woods All Black by Lee Mandello. That comes out on March 19th, and it's described as historical horror, trans romance, and blood-soaked revenge.
Oh.
Count me in. 100% I'm in.
Blood-soaked
Check
revenge.
somebody
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So then Anna Bright, friend of the podcast, we met her at
I love
Imaginarium
her.
last year. She is like the sweetest person on the planet. She just had a book come out on March 12th called The Hedge Witch of Fox Hall. So she is an extremely intelligent writer and has amazing world building. So
Oh,
I
yes.
can't wait to read that.
There's a lot to read right now. That's exciting. Well, let's get into the nerdy and dirty. Let's start off with what we're reading. Mindy, tell me everything. What are you reading, girl?
Well, I did finish Red, White, and Royal Blue, and I
What'd
really
you think
loved. I
of
loved
it?
it. It was great. It was just
History, huh?
It's on my
history.
list.
Oh, you'll like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the movie, I'm going to warn you, do not watch the movie.
I'm not going to.
They take all of, the historical love letters they exchange.
Yeah.
None of that's in there.
That's like half the book.
That's what makes the book so special,
Yeah.
I think, because they are exchanging letters of gay romance from real history, like
Yeah.
real letters.
Oh.
And then they take out the whole history, thing. It's not even in it. His sister's not in it. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why'd you even make this?
Yeah, that sounds like it would have been better as like a series.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But for me, last year, it just hit at the right time. It was such a special book.
Yeah,
I love
it's
that
a
book.
great, and I love a good male romance with good witty banter, and it was just it was perfect.
Now, Casey McQuinton has a new book coming out in August.
Oh,
called
really?
The Pairing. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll bring that up again probably in our.
I'll tell you about it with 25 other books. Now.
Yeah, nerd alert.
But so yes, I finished that, and then I'm reading something now that I think you all are going to be shocked that I'm reading because it's historical fiction. But
Oh.
hang on with the catch. So it's called.
Are you a clone?
I know, right? Like somebody. What did you do with my friend? But it's called Factory Girls by Michelle Gallen.
Yeah.
and it's been suggested to me by so many people, telling me that this is a historical fiction book for people who don't like historical fiction. It's actually set in the 90s in Ireland. And
How is that historical fiction?
well, I mean,
'Cause it's in the past,
because it's
Ed.
history.
What the fuck?
Yesterday is technically historical, too.
So
you
I
do
read all
realize
kinds of it.
93 was 30
Shut
years ago.
up. But I don't think I would call the 70s historical fiction.
I would.
I would say 50s is historical fiction. I feel like if I can't relate to it in any way, that's when it becomes historical fiction for me.
That's interesting.
The
Maybe-
90s were
that
only
needs
like
to
10
be
years ago.
Yeah, well, but you know what? You're right. That's a good question to maybe research. Like what
should be a
constitutes
nerdy
historical
topic,
fiction? Yeah.
guys.
So
Well, and yeah, maybe we can recommend some good historical fiction that's older than the 90s. Because I'm like, what are they doing? Listening to Nirvana? That doesn't sound that too outdated to me.
well, it does have to do with some turmoil that's going on in Ireland at that
In
time.
Ireland, yeah.
So I mean, it does have like a history aspect to it, but it's so far it's really good. So you'll see a review for that coming soon, I'm sure.
Nice.
I don't know. I just posted a review of a book you read in August. And
That's
it's
okay.
March. So, because I save them for when it's like
Appropriate.
it fits, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you'll see it at some point, friends.
Eventually.
Unless it's an arc, and then you'll see it right away.
Yeah.
Well, that is part of the issue. Is
That
that we
is
have
the issue.
We are all reading so many arcs
Yeah.
that like you got to get them out.
It pushes our reading that aren't arcs way back in our reviews. So,
Yep, that's 100% true. I'm just realizing that I need to send you reviews for the past 3 books that I've read.
I wasn't going to say anything. But I was like, I've not heard, and I just assumed you were reading The Bonds That Tie.
No, I've actually read this week.
Did you already put them in Goodreads?
Nope.
Oh, okay. So I was
haven't
gonna say, I
done
could just pull them
anything.
from there, but
Nope, I sure haven't.
Maybe later this week you can send me your reviews.
I know. I meant to do that today and didn't. So,
I don't know about
whoopsie
you
daisy.
all, but life is feeling very out of control right now. And I don't
It's
know.
a little cray-cray.
I don't know
Yeah.
why. I feel like when we were in the pandemic, I said we are not going to go back to the way that we were, where there was always something after school. We were running around like crazy people and overcommitted like on a social level, right?
Yeah.
And it's like worse.
Yeah, here we are.
I know.
Because the pandemic lasted for so long.
And now we're like, I want to do everything.
We want to
Yeah.
do all the
We're
things.
making up for lost time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
If we could never have one of those again, that would be great.
I know. Yeah, that would be amazing. That's
So, what are you reading, Whitney?
unprecedented times.
Yeah.
Well, this week I actually did read 2 new to me books, not rereads. I am down the Tessa Bailey rabbit hole. Shout out to Deb for introducing me to Tessa Bailey
You're
with
welcome.
Wreck the Halls, which we did in December. But I read Fangirl Down, which you talked about last week and recommended, and I really, really loved it. And then I also read Secretly Yours. And I have almost every book that she read requested from the library. I'm just waiting for him to come in.
I
So,
love that. I thought Secretly Yours was so good. And
It's
you've
really
not read It
cute.
Happened One Summer yet, have you?
It's coming
That
soon.
and that.
It's on its way.
That one and Hook, Line, and Sinker, which is
That's
her
also-
sister's book. Or like in...
The character.
right.
Yeah.
Those books are like really,
I have
really
Hook,
good.
Line, and Sinker if you want to borrow it.
Ooh, yes, sure.
I'm
I'll
so
take it
glad
all.
you're reading those, though.
Yeah, she's very funny, and
She
I
is.
really like her spice. It's good without being like gratuitous or gross, and it's still kind of funny sometimes, and it's just really fun. Her books are fun to read, which I
So-
felt that way with Wreck the Halls, and I'm happy to keep feeling that way about her other books too. You know?
Secretly Yours is the one where her friend owns the donut shop, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I had taken a Delta 9 gummy, and my daughter was reading with me in bed, and whenever there's this part in the book that's like, so what do they call the donut shop? And it's Fudge Judy.
Yeah.
I started laughing hysterically, and I was like, Sadie, listen to this shit. And she was like in the last 3 pages of a Sarah J. Maas book, and she's like, what?
Leave me alone.
And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm still laughing by the time she's done. And she's like, what was it? And I was like, it's Fudge Judy.
I bet she was not amused.
Yeah, she was not. But I thought it was hilarious that's what that place was called.
Yeah, I picked up, I really liked Secretly Yours, which Secretly Yours is like wineries and gardening, which like I kind of don't really care about, but I still am drawn into the story, right?
Just like Fangirl Down, I don't like golf.
Well, see,
That book is so good.
Robbie plays golf. Like he was on the golf team in college when we met, and so I kind of know about golf. And I have asked him so many questions about golf based on this book.
Is he so excited?
He is really.
I was gonna
excited
say, how
about
much
it.
How much
is he
sex have
loving?
you had this week?
That's a personal matter.
You're glowing.
I've had a great week. Listen, I'll just leave it at that. No, but he is a golfer, and I don't love golf. I will go and sit in the cart and read a book, right? But I really enjoyed reading about, like, oh, I kind of understand this. Like, you know, we read the hockey stuff, and I'm like, I don't know anything about hockey, but it made me feel kind of smart to read a book about golf and be like, I kind of understand some of what's going on
here?
Yeah, like I get this.
I feel bad that Tessa Bailey had to research that.
I really like her. I love we talked about this with Wreck the Halls, but I love her male characters just being like so obsessed with their people.
But not like
I
in a
love that.
dark
Not
way.
not in a creepy way, but just like they
This
love
isn't
them.
Haunting Adeline.
Yeah, they just love them so much.
I know.
And I love that.
There is a scene in Secretly Yours where they're in the kitchen.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what scene you're talking
And
about.
that is probably my favorite Tessa Bailey scene of all time.
It's a good scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some good stuff
I've
happening.
not read that one yet.
You should add it
I
to your
have.
list.
I have that if you want to read it.
Add it to the never-ending list.
Yes.
Yeah.
Deb, what have you been reading?
So I just finished Destroy the Day by Bridget Kemmerer. It's the last book in the trilogy of Defy the Night, which when we interviewed her, we talked about this series. It's actually about a disease that's spreading across the whole world, and the government is controlling the medicine and everyone's dying. And I read it in the pandemic, and of course, like,
That's
and I
trippy.
was like, this is a little too close to home, right? And so it follows these two people. One's an apothecary, one is the prince, but he is disguised as an outlaw at the beginning. Like, she doesn't know he's the prince, and so it kind of becomes this like friends to almost lovers to enemies to lovers, and they go on like these big epic adventures, and it's just amazing writing.
You've been anticipating this one for a while.
I was honestly more excited about it than Crescent City 3. I mean, I really was.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of Crescent City 3, I actually just finished that as well because I always listen to Bridget's books. I like the narrators that she chooses. I really liked Crescent City 3. I think I can't say why I gave it 4 stars, but it's the same reason that you were going to give it 4 stars. We need to talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm
not
also
yet.
Right, not yet. I'm also reading an arc by Laura Pecherzik, and it's called Castles of Nevers and Nightmares. And I got that from the Nerd Fam, so thanks so much for sending it to me. I just started that last night, and I didn't know this. I think it's a Why Choose, which I'm really pumped about.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm
Interesting.
like, hello, Six Fayman. Oh, she rejected you, didn't she? Has she been a bad girl?
Oh, man. Well, let's move into what we're watching. I'm pretty sure I'm watching the same thing I talked about last week, Modern Family and bar routine
Okay, you have to tell
videos.
them about our text exchange today.
Oh,
That
my
video
gosh.
that Carrie sent.
Oh, yeah. So our book club chat, somebody sent a clip from one of the Modern Family episodes where there's a stranger in their hot tub and they're like, we need to call the police. And then he gets up and it's James Marsden. I mean, it's not him like in the show, but he's the actor portraying it. And he's like super hot, right?
Yes.
And I
Totally
just,
ripped.
yeah. And they're like, oh, well, let's let him use it. It's fine.
Let's ask him if he needs anything.
Yeah, like he's hot, so we're gonna just not worry about this. And I watched that episode yesterday. When that episode was on, I said, "Oh, James Marsden's in this. He is just so handsome."
He is so handsome.
And Robbie glared at me. He was like, "Well, I don't know about seeing him shirtless now that I know how you feel about him."
Okay, Robbie
my goodness.
also has blue eyes and dirty ash blonde hair.
He's dirty ass. He's got that dirty ass blonde hair.
I'm pretty sure Robbie probably has the cleanest ass on the planet. But like, yeah, I mean,
that would thrill him that you think
should,
that.
I know, right? He should be excited that someone who has his same physical attributes that you're like, oh my God.
I'll tell him that next time, and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I look exactly like James Marsden."
That's whenever the whole Ryan Gosling like "Hey girl" thing was around. My Brian was always like, "Well, yeah, he has blue eyes and blonde hair. I'm here for it. He's a skinny white guy. I like it."
Clearly, it's an avatar for me.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, it was. It so was.
That's funny. Mindy, what are you watching? Are you watching anything?
I
know you're busy.
I don't watch a lot, but this week I kind of dug into the old archives. And because what we're talking about in our topic this week has to do with like pool and beachside reads, and I don't really go to the pool, and I kind of focus more on like road trip reads. It reminded me of this movie that I watched. It's from 1988, so it's historical fiction.
Historical fiction.
No, it's not.
But actually, it is because it's set in the 60s. So it's called Shag, and it's these 4 girls from Spartanburg, South Carolina, right? They drive to Myrtle Beach for this last like girls trip before one of them's getting married. And there's this like it's like Myrtle Beach, so it's like insane, and there's these contests. There's like a beauty contest, and there's a dance contest. It's just so fun and refreshing. I hadn't seen it in forever, so I like dug that out of the old archives and watched it this week.
Can I ask a stupid question?
It's not stupid, but yes.
Well, I think it might be. Does it mean shag like sex shag?
No,
or-
there's actually a dance called Shag.
Oh.
How's
Called
it
the
go?
Shag.
Can you stand up and show us?
Absolutely not.
We'll record it and put it on our nerdiestthing.com.
Is it like the mashed potato?
No.
Is that how you do the mashed potato? I don't know. It looks like you're doing the chicken dance.
We'll pretend like yes, because our listeners can't see. So
Yeah,
I
she
totally
totally
know
did.
all
But you know
kinds
what?
of things.
It probably was a little tongue in cheek
Yeah,
there too,
probably.
because
Yeah.
I mean, there's some love interests and whatnot.
Yeah,
They were all
yeah.
about free love at the
In
time.
the 60s,
Making
yeah.
love.
What are you watching, Deb?
I actually only watched one thing this week. I've been really slammed and just have had busy weekends and stuff. So I watched Appointment in Samara, which is Supernatural season 6, episode 11. And this is the episode where Dean asks Death to restore Sam's soul. And of course, Death, being the super cool jerk that he is, makes Dean take over his job for a day. And it's a really compelling episode.
That is a really
episode.
good one. Yeah.
So, funny note, this actor, Julian Richings, who plays Death on the show, at the Supernatural cons, he was one of the coolest actors.
He was
that we met.
hilarious.
And so Mindy and I even took a picture of him, and we told him to act like he was grabbing our ass, and like we have our hands over our mouth because he's so smart. We
And,
thought
like,
it was like
English proper.
and poised,
Yeah.
and like,
Yeah.
but he like was also like, yeah, of course, like, you know what I mean?
It's one of the best pictures that we have from
It
those.
is. He was so fun to talk to. I will say too, my daughter has been sick for about 4 days, and last night when I got home late, and she's like, can I come climb in your bed and watch Gossip Girl? And I was like, well, I'm finishing Crescent City 3, but yes, you can lay next to me. And I look up and I was like, that's not Gossip Girl. What's this bullshit? And she's like, I told you, Pretty Little Liars. I was like, I did not approve of Pretty Little Liars.
Get out.
That show is butt. That's what she always says. That's butt, Mom. That show is butt. It's awful. And like the second episode, you've got a teacher making out with the
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
like,
It's
ew.
rough. It's rough.
Like everybody's like just fucking each other, but they're all 16. It's ugh.
I'm pretty sure that one of the actresses in that show at some point in the show is like 13 and is doing like flirty kiss scenes with like, you know, 20-year-olds.
I say that out loud though, and like that's some of the same stuff from Gossip Girl. I mean, I guess I can't really
Yeah.
knock it, but Pretty Little Liars is just horribly produced.
In Gossip Girl, though, the actors are
In their
all,
20s.
Yes,
Yes.
like the characters might be that age, but the actual actors are not.
Right.
But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So I was like, this is not what I signed up for. I know you're sick. Get out of my bed. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I literally.
She deserved to get kicked out.
Yeah.
What are you guys listening to? I'll go first because I know you guys actually listen to books and I don't. I'm not. I don't really. I'm just listening to Taylor Swift, you guys. 1989, Taylor's version. It's real good. There's a song called Slut that's really good.
For
Slut.
those listeners that are like me, when you say Taylor's version, how is
Yeah.
that different from the original 1989?
Buckle up, guys.
That's a big time story here.
It is a big time story. I won't go into all the details, but essentially what happened was Scooter Braun, who
What a shitty name.
well, and he's also a shitty person.
Oh, okay.
It's a douchey name, which
He's a
tracks.
douchey guy.
What's your name? Scooter.
He was the manager for Justin Bieber, Demi Lovato, Idina Menzel, like a lot of people. And he went behind her back and sold her masters, not to her, like didn't even give her the opportunity to buy them herself. So she put out like public statements at the time that was like, this is absolute bullshit. Like this should not have happened this way. Kelly Clarkson tagged her in a tweet at this time. This was like several years ago at this point, and said, what if you just re-record everything, do them again, and then you do new artwork, do new mixes, just do them all.
Oh, good for
and
you,
that's
Kelly
that's
Clarkson.
what she's done. She's re-recorded all of those albums that got sold except for Reputation.
So does she get royalties from the original songs?
No.
What?
No, that's the whole thing.
How is that even possible? How
Well,
can
she
they do
got
that?
paid for doing them at the time.
Oh,
She
that's
got
nice of them.
She got paid for those tours and stuff. But that's the thing with like owning the masters is like you get the royalties. So she has such a loyal fan base that basically every radio station and streaming platform is like, we will only play the Taylor's versions. And so when she releases a new Taylor's version of one of her albums, that is the one that gets played.
You know what I want to do?
It's
I
awesome.
want to literally call Laura Buckheit and have this conversation with her too. And I want to, and she's for our listeners, she's the author of
Realm of Ash and
Realm of
Shadow.
Ash and Shadow. We did her book last season. She's fabulous, but she is a huge Swiftie. And
Yeah.
so I want to see you two like get really
Talk about it.
about this.
Yeah.
And like me and Mindy will just sit to the side and
It'd be
drink.
fascinating.
Well, the really fun thing about her Taylor's version albums is that she releases songs from the vault that she wrote for these albums, but like didn't make it onto the album. So this song Slut from 1989 is a from the vault song, which is really, really good. And there's this other song called Now That We Don't Talk. Oh my gosh, it's so freaking catchy. It's like a 2-minute song. It's super short, but I mean, I play those two songs on
We've
repeat
said
like
this
every day.
before, but when we drive to DC this summer, we'll know these songs by the
Yeah,
end.
that'll be what's on my playlist. All Taylor Swift.
And then
stuff,
you and
so.
Laura can have your Swiftie
Yes.
conversation
Oh my
there.
gosh, yes.
I can't
Hopefully,
wait to see her.
Well, she's got the Tortured Poets department coming out in April, so we'll have new,
her
new stuff
Immortal
to talk
Longing book for Imaginarium, she did hot pink glitter sprayed edges. So of course I pre-ordered
Nice.
that shit so fast.
Yeah, I need to get that.
I'm
That's
pumped about
exciting.
it. Yeah,
but
she's
anyway,
got a lot
yeah,
of good stuff coming out.
Yeah.
that's what I'm listening to. Slut. Slut. That's how it goes.
So I know we always talk about what we're loving. Is that what you're loving?
I didn't get to talk about.
I didn't talk
Neither
about
one
what
of
I
you
was loving
guys.
either.
I was gonna say, we didn't get to
I
talk
was
about
I'm so enthralled by what you're saying. I'm like, keep talking, Whitney.
It is Whitney story
And
time.
I think our cocktail's hitting me a little bit.
Mindy, what are you listening to?
I am listening to. also got an advanced listener copy of "If You Hate Me" by Helena Hunting.
Even though we went to Katie Roberts' signing for Midnight Ruin and got the book, she's one of those authors. When I start a series in audio, I have to finish it in audio.
Yeah.
And so I'm listening to Midnight Ruin right now, and like 5 minutes in, and it just jumps right into it, if you know what I'm saying. And I'm like, wait, who's this character?
the hole?
Why are they fucking? Like,
Jumped right into the hole there, didn't
but
they?
then I was like, oh, keep going. It's fine. I'll figure out who you are later.
Seven.
Yeah. So it's and she has this. I don't know if the narrator's actually British, but she speaks in a British accent, and so like I kind of look forward to it every time. It's like a reading with a friend, you know?
That's nice. Yeah. Oh,
You're like, who's that bitch?
I do have something different that I'm loving. I am loving Taylor Swift, but this is so random, but I'm eating a lot of this. I'm calling it Oreo Fluff. I don't know.
What is it?
I don't know if I came up with that name, or I know I've seen a version of this multiple times on TikTok. So I might have taken that name from somebody on TikTok. I really don't know. But what I get is Cool Whip. You can use regular, you can use sugar-free, you can use reduced fat, whatever.
Okay,
it doesn't
did you
matter.
know that Cool Whip is lactate-free? And I was eating bullshit
did.
vegan Cool Whip for 4 years until I figured that out at Christmas.
Yeah.
And now I
yeah.
have Cool Whip in the fridge and I eat it like ice cream.
Yeah, see, that's what I do with this. And so you take Oreos or Oreo Thins and you crush them up and just like mix it in. I don't know why I'm showing you how to stir. I'm showing this
She's
is
like,
how
you're
you
real
do it.
fucking stupid.
Yeah,
Here's how you do
just crush up some Oreos, however many you want, whatever, doesn't matter, and just mix it up and then let it sit. And the Oreos get like nice and soggy.
it.
And
Ooh,
then,
like vanilla wafer pudding.
yes,
Oh.
and then you can take a fresh Oreo, scoop
dip it
however
in.
much out, and then top it with a freshly crushed
I'm
Oreo.
so horny right now.
You could take like cheesecake Jello mix
You could
and put it in
like,
there. Or,
mint flavor in it.
yeah.
Wow.
It's so good and it's like super easy. And if you're on a weight loss journey like me, you can do the sugar-free or reduced fat or whatever and eat like a nice little bowl, and it's really not that many
See,
calories.
I do
so-
sugar-free Jello.
Yeah.
Or sugar-free Jello pudding.
Yeah.
Right? And then I put Cool Whip on top, and it like literally is like eating air. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
Put one sugar-free chocolate pudding in it too. That's real good. The options are endless. you
Seriously,
guys.
so horny about
make it work for you.
I was
But
like,
that's
what's
what I'm
Oreo
loving.
fluff? I was picturing you opening all the cookies and eating the cream out of them. You just put the cookies back together and
That
put
is
them back in the cabinet.
that is not out of the realm of possibilities for Whitney. that would be a very Whitney thing to do.
We know that you really like the cream filling.
I do. I know you're being gross, but I really do.
Being gross? What are you talking about? Maybe you're gross.
Well, we're all gross.
Where's your mind, Whitney?
In the gutter.
I thought you were saying in the
Hello.
cream filling.
Mindy, what are you loving?
For me right now, and it's because I've been working on our camper, but I'm really loving anything mid-century modern right now. I'm
Yeah.
just knee deep. I almost said balls deep. I am balls
You
deep.
can be balls deep in it.
I'm balls deep into this.
Would you rather be
remodel.
balls deep or knee deep?
Yeah, I mean,
Balls deep probably feels better.
it
Balls
probably
deep.
does. Yeah, yeah. So yes, I'm doing a lot of remodeling in the camper, and I want a mid-century modern vibe.
Yeah.
So
When are you going to ask me to come help?
when it doesn't look like a shithole.
I want to help.
Are you just on like Pinterest all the time looking at different ideas or
Yes.
Googling? And yeah,
Yes.
I like doing that too. I will scroll Pinterest forever looking at all these like interior design stuff that I'm never going to do.
And we're not even to that stage yet. Like right
Right.
now, I'm peeling wallpaper off.
Oh, I don't want to do that shit.
Hideous.
I want to help you.
Aren't you
not.
glad she hasn't invited you yet?
You can come and help me do the decorating.
Okay, I want to help you paint and sew pillow
Yeah.
covers and like do that shit.
That would be fun.
Please don't make me peel wallpaper.
The fun
Yeah, it's
stuff.
awful.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It's
Yeah.
awful.
Well, that
I'm
means
sorry.
that's like that shows how much you love me. That you didn't ask me to come help you.
I
She
know
knew.
you.
Yeah,
She
we don't-
knew.
We're at an age where you don't ask people to help you move, and you don't ask people to help you peel wallpaper.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Deb, what are you loving?
Oh my gosh, I today was just thinking about all of the travel I have coming up this year. I mean, listen to this shit. It's insane. So in March, I'm going to Salt Lake, and then 2 weeks later, I'm going to Atlanta. In April, I'm going to Destin for spring break with my kids, then Denver for Reader's Take, Denver, and then 2 days later, going to DC for a Polycon with Kate Gately. Then in June, we're going to DC again for Imaginarium Book Festival, and then I'm going to Texas with our friend Carrie. Then in October, we have Books and Bourbon Soiree. And then I just confirmed for next February, so a year from now, again, Readers Take Denver. And then my husband's going to go with me to LA to the Romanticy-Con.
That's awesome.
So
And then we have Lit next year, too.
Oh, yeah, we'll have Lit in March.
Yeah.
March, right? So I'm just so excited. I love to travel. I mean, I'm so exhausted when I'm done with it, but it is literally like my happy place. And so this does not even count all of the art shows I'm doing this year. So when Mindy sent me like 20 dates about something earlier, and I was like, I can do one. But I'm not sad about it because I'm doing fun stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So it's going to be busy.
Exciting.
It is.
That's really exciting.
I love it. I can't wait to meet. If you're a listener and you're at these events, for the love of God, please come talk to me.
Yeah.
We're either there
exciting.
as Our Nerdiest Thing or as my company, Icon Design, but you'll know me because I have resting bitch face. And you'll be like, is that girl that like everyone's scared to talk to?
It's either you or me.
Yeah. Like, are you Whitney or Deborah?
Yeah, with the RBF. Here we are. Mindy looks nice and kind.
I don't know about that.
It's the bangs.
I think I look like a space cadet half the time. So
No,
But that's much more approachable than I'm going to stab you.
Is it though? Like, I don't want to go talk to that girl because she looks like she has nothing to say.
No. When
that's
you say
not true.
space cadet, I envision you like have like this vivid imagination. Right?
Oh.
You're in the clouds, but you're thinking about the dragons up there.
I like that. I think I'm going to go with that.
I love you.
Yeah. Thanks.
That's nice.
You're amazing just the way you are.
Let's go into our nerdiest topic for today. Which,
Wait, I have a book I want to convince you to read.
oh yeah, I forgot that we were doing that.
Yeah. I know
me.
that's new this season.
Tell me everything.
So just so the listeners know, we were talking about like, do we want to do every episode, all three of us convince someone to read a book? And we came to the conclusion that like, we'll do it if we have one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm always going to have one. Every week.
we'll make this like Deb's segment.
yeah. But I want to hear what you guys want to read too. Okay, so the books I want to talk about are The Book of Azrael and The Throne of Broken Gods by Amber V. Nicole. These books are urban fantasy that remind me of, and this is going to sound silly because this is not typically what we read. It reminds me of a mix of Star Wars and The Matrix. Okay, so you've got all these different types of characters, but then you have like this awesome fighting style in it that I'm super into. The FMC Diana is called a Ig Morithin, and I think that's how you pronounce it. So I need to. Amber V. Nicole has commented on our stuff sometimes, so I just need to ask her to be honest. But she's essentially an immortal woman who can shapeshift into a wyvern. She has like fire power. She can get into people's minds. She has like super strength, super, I was going to say super fast. She's quick as a cat. So she serves an evil asshole that essentially only promises to not kill her if Diana does everything he wants, which mostly includes murdering and terrorizing his enemies while he searches for the Book of Azrael, the title of the first book. As things start to get more bloody and violent, the King of Gods, Samkiel, arrives on the scene to stop Diana because she's like fucking people up, right? But Diana has plans of her own for herself and her sister. She wants to be free of this asshole who's controlling her. So she teams up with Samkiel to put a stop to the aforementioned asshole. I'm not going to say his name because he's a jerk. But this book is witty. Their banter is hilarious. And it's a really great example of enemies to lovers to enemies.
Ooh.
Which I find really fun. Has all of my favorite tropes: forced proximity, slow burn, one bed, and an epic adventure. And if you're interested in these books, book 3 comes out on May 23rd, Dawn of the Cursed Queen.
Ooh,
So, and I don't know if that's the
nice.
last book or not, but honestly, part of the reason it took me so long to read Crescent City 3 is because I had started this second book, and then when Crescent City came out, I felt like obligated to read it, and I
Sure.
put it down and went back to this because I was
Yeah.
so into it. And I don't regret that. It was a really, really
Yeah.
cool book.
I've seen it all over it.
I have too.
Yeah. And I thought it was going to be like a dark romance, and it's really not. It's much more urban fantasy. So
Cool.
it's really, really interesting. Highly recommend.
Nice.
Did I convince you to read the book?
Thank you. Yes.
I'm putting it on my TBR.
I'll add it to the list.
I know. You say that every week.
You always have more books. I'm over here rereading Bonds That Tie 57 times.
I know. But
We got like 172 books to read.
We talked about comfort reads last week, and it makes you happy.
It does. That's true.
And I like it when you're happy.
This year, my schedule shifted so much, so I have to get up a lot earlier to be at work. And I know last year I constantly was saying my work is getting in the way of my reading.
Yeah.
And it's really cramping my style this year, because by the time I get home and like have dinner and do everything, I'm tired. And so when I go to read, when I would normally read, I fall asleep, and it's really pissing me off.
Yeah.
So I'm not reading as much as normal. I can't wait till the summer when I'm just going to devour everything.
Just quit your job.
She's not.
That's not off the table.
I think you're going to get a taste of that RV life this summer and be like, fuck it.
Yeah. Again, I'm done with that. Yeah. Well, now let's get into our nerdiest topic. We're talking about spring break poolside vibe kind of reads. And so all three of us...
Whitney likes the vibe.
I do. We're all going to be bringing a different perspective. Deb, actually, you go on spring break trips. And
Not like spring break, woohoo!
Well, but like with your kids. You mentioned it earlier. You're going on a trip with your kids. Mindy and I don't, right? Mindy, you're pretty much a homebody like I am.
Pretty much.
But your kids are older and self-sufficient, and my kids are still young and like up my butt.
Also, the big difference between you all is you really love the pool, Whitney, and Mindy doesn't.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I do like to do an actual poolside read, but I also will do a read at home, but like with young kids, which is just a whole different thing.
Yes,
so
it is.
This is a great topic. So like really whatever your style is, we've got something for you.
Yeah. Mindy, why don't you go first?
Okay. So for me, the best spring breaks that I remember are ones that we went on road trips, or just road trips with the girls. Like we go on road trips as three a lot. That's how we even came up with this podcast.
When you say the girls, you mean me, you, and Whitney?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
I didn't know if you
Sorry.
meant your children.
Oh, no. God, my kids are assholes on vacation.
I think most moms are going,
Yep, sounds about right.
So when I think of good road trip reads, there are several that I love. And I'm going to go back. I went through a huge like YA phase where that was pretty much all I read.
Do you remember when you were getting book boxes for YA? And I was like, YA. And now I have two of them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I got some really good. Actually, one of those I think came from that. One of these came from that. But of course, last time I talked about John Green and how I love him. So two of these are from John Green. You've got Paper Towns, which is about a boy who's enamored with his neighbor, and then he goes on this road trip with his friends to follow clues to find her because she just kind of disappears. So it's like this big, it was kind of got an epic grand adventure, and there's like a little bit of a like, not really a love story, but like a longing story. It's a really, really good one, and it did get made into a movie with Cara Delevingne. Mm-hmm. So that one's a really, really good one. And then also by John Green, there's one called An Abundance of Catherines. And something I love about John Green is he's got really, really good quirky characters.
I've never read a book by him.
He's so cerebral, and so like everything, like it does make you think. She's like, no, never mind.
I read to escape,
but they're fun. I mean, they're definitely escapes, but like it's not. When I say cerebral, I mean he's very like he's a word nerd like me. An Abundance of Catherines is about a quirky boy whose type is girls who are named Catherine. Like he's been through all these girls named Catherine.
That's weird.
And he goes on a road trip with his best friend to find the one that got away, basically. And then he sort of rediscovers himself along the way. The next one is one that I actually introduced to my oldest, and he loved this book, and he has my copy of it because he won't give it back. And it's called Let's Get Lost by Adi Al-Said. This one's really, really cool. It's about a girl who's kind of trying to find herself, so she goes on a road trip. And along the way, she meets 4 different strangers, shows up in their life whenever they really need her most, and she helps them through these things. It's really clever, and it's just one of my favorites that I've reread that one a couple times. And then 13 Little Blue Envelopes is another YA read. Like I said, I went through a phase. And this is about a girl who receives a mysterious package from a favorite aunt. And they lead her on a cross-country trip through Europe, and it sort of changes her life, and she has sort of a rediscovering moment as well. Next one I have, these are actually ones that I haven't read, but are on my TBR that I really, really want to read. The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary. It's a romantic comedy. 1+1 by Jojo Moyes, which is a mother-daughter road trip. and 1,000 Miles by Bridget Morrissey, which is about estranged childhood friends that take the road trip that they never got to take. All sound really
That's nice.
intriguing to me.
Yeah.
And then finally, in general, audiobooks, I think, are really, really great
Yeah.
road trip reads, unless you have a husband who doesn't like that sort of stuff. And so I don't get to do it as often. But I most definitely do not recommend reading any kind of a sad book on a road trip or vacation, because I read Me Before You by Jojo Moyes on vacation. It totally broke me, and I cried at everything for a full day. My family wanted to totally disown me. It was awful. So, and we were at the beach, which I don't love anyways. So
There were a couple of books I thought of for my list, and then I was like, oh, no, wait, I cried at the end. No. Yeah, I did the exact same
you don't
thing.
want a sad book during
Yeah.
your poolside beach.
Save that for
vacation
later.
road
Yeah.
trip reads. Yeah.
Thank you, Mindy. Deb, will you tell us your spring break trip poolside reads
Fun time reads. Time.
recommendations?
Yeah. Okay, so for me, a spring break read means that it's something I can read by the pool. And when the kids were younger, it can't be so world buildy that I couldn't keep my eyes on them, right? And now that I'm older, the book has to be light enough in content that I can understand it with my beach and poolside day drinking. I want to say, both my kids are teenagers, okay? I'm not being a negligent mother. Having said that, I never take high fantasy or sci-fi books on vacation with me, and I mostly focus on steamy romance or rom-coms. But I do have 3 categories that I always recommend to take on a beach vacation: murder mystery, horror, and romance. And I know one of these things is not like the other. But when you read 5 books on vacation like I do, you kind of have to mix
need a
it
variety,
up, right?
yeah.
Because we are beach and pool people. We sit out there for 8 hours, right? So I get in and I play with my kids. I put on suntan oil. I take a nap. I read. I drink a margarita. I read. Okay, so here are my top recommendations in each category. Let's start with horror. The first one I recommend is Amityville Horror by Jay Anson. I read this book when I was 12, you guys.
That is so insane to
I
me.
know. I did not sleep for weeks.
I bet.
But it has stuck with me as such a good book into adulthood. And also, after you watch it, you can watch the original screen adaptation and then the one made in the 2000s with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
He is shirtless a lot.
The original one is James Brolin, isn't it?
Is it? I don't remember.
I think-
Because
I
again,
think
I
it's
watched it
young.
when I was 12, Whitney.
I think it's young James Brolin. I'm
Right,
pretty sure.
yeah. So the
and
next...
I said James Brolin.
James Brolin.
Are you sure? Sorry, that's from Friends.
Friends, Phoebe Buffet. So the next, and I wouldn't say this is horror. This is more paranormal. But The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, I think, would be a really good beach read, because there is this you can follow it very easily, but there is this what the fuck moment that is really
that's a good one.
keep you engaged. I also recommend I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. They made a movie out of this with Will Smith, and they really butchered the ending. So I would highly recommend reading this book. It's a zombie apocalypse. They're trying to find a cure type of thing. So really good beach read. Whitney, you're going to laugh when I say this one, but Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder. This is perfect for those moms that are just driving them crazy. And you'll
Yeah.
understand why when you read it.
Yeah.
It's about a mom who
That's a good
starts
one.
having werewolf tendencies because she literally cannot handle all the shit that's put on her plate.
Yeah.
So really good satire for moms at the beach with their kids.
Yeah, satire.
Yeah, sure, that's what it is. And finally, Friday the 13th, because who doesn't want to read about a vigilante serial killer at summer camp? It's a good one. And if you think that Jason's the killer, you wrong. You need to read those. Okay, so next we have mystery. Let's start with Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I really like a unreliable narrator, and even though this content is very difficult in this book, it's easy to read.
It
Very
is,
easy
yeah.
to follow. The author did a really good job with that. Next, we have The Talented Mr. Ripley by Trisha Highsmith. There was also a movie made of this. It's got Jude Law and who's the gentleman that died that was the game maker on Hunger Games? What was his name?
Oh, Stephen.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip
Yes,
Seymour Hoffman.
yes.
He's in it. It's a really good book. And then another one, if you think your kids are being assholes and you want to see them as perfect angels, just read The Push by Ashley Audrain, and you'll be like, oh my God, my kids are so good. And again, a very thought-provoking story. So finally, romance. And we talked about this earlier, but if you want all the giggles and all the spice, I highly recommend Tessa Bailey. Start with It Happened One Summer. It's very easy to read, and then read the sequel, and then you'll get on Amazon and just buy all her books, just like Whitney has. Next, I recommend The Love Hypothesis. This is especially good for us nerdy girls who have a hot nerdy partner, right? Because if you've not read that, they're both scientists, they're people in STEM, and it's based off of 2 Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver's Star Wars characters, which I think is really, really fun. We talked about this too. Red, White, and Royal Blue is a super sweet love story between the U.S. president's son and the Prince of England. So it's an MM, but it's really just a sweet story about them falling in love and having to hide it. Not only hiding that they're gay, but hiding their romance. And it's just the history, the actual history they bring into it is super thought-provoking and a 5-star read for me. And then my last recommendation is Butcher and Blackbird. So you need
a little bit of all 3 of those categories.
Yeah, it is. You need to be ready to laugh and blush while reading this book.
Yeah.
I read it in like barely a day, though. It's so good. So yeah, those are my recommendations for the beach. So if you want to mix it up a little bit, you could just take one from each for the week.
Yeah.
Or if you're Whitney, take all 15 and go for it. What about you, Whit?
Well, my recommendations are going to sound a little familiar to yours. No, familiar to yours, similar to yours, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I don't have a ton because most moms of young kids that are home with their kids don't, get to read a whole lot through that spring break week, right?
Because you're
so
busy.
I don't have a ton of books, but I have Butcher and Blackbird because it was a very quick read. And well, here's what all these books have in common for me. They were very quick reads. They were fun to read. They made me like giggle and kick my feet at least once while I was reading them.
Oh my gosh, I can like see you doing that. And it's so cute.
Oh my gosh. All of these books did that for me. And they're also books that are compelling and engaging, but I can set it down and not like miss anything, not have to refresh my memory, right? Like they're not super deep because if you've got young kids, you can't sit and read for a super long amount of time, right? You might get to read like 1 or 2 chapters and then you have to stop for a little bit and then you can pick it back up. So it has to be books that I can still follow and stay in, reading little pieces at a time.
I want to back you up with that on Butcher and Blackbird too, because I was actually finishing it on Halloween. And so we always take our fire pit down to the end of the driveway and put up a table with candy and stuff, and we just sit outside, right? And this year I'm sitting behind the fire, kids are coming up to the table and they're like, trick or treat, and I'm like, yeah, take whatever you want, because I'm like reading this book and it's
get out of here,
thought-provoking, and I'm like, wait, they just started doing it, get your candy and fuck off. Like,
yeah, Butcher and Blackbird is like that for me. It was a quick read, it was a lot of fun. It is a darker book.
Read the trigger warnings, you all.
Right, read the trigger
warnings. Faint of heart, but it's funny.
It's a darker book, but it is funny. It is fun to read. I'm pretty sure that when I read this, it was still winter break after I had the flu, while the kids were still at home, and it was really a really good read. I also recommend Everything and Anything Tessa Bailey. I'm not even going to list out her books. Just look them all up. The ones that I have read are Secretly Yours, Wreck the Halls, and Fangirl Down. And again, the rest of her catalog is incoming from the library. They're very quick. They're compelling. They're a lot of fun. She's funny. She's got good spice. The male characters, like I mentioned earlier, I love the simping over their ladies. I love it. If you can read when the kids go to bed and also read a little bit throughout your day, you could probably read 5 or 6 of her books. Like they're very quick.
If you can read when the kids go to bed and read up until you go to the bed with your spouse, they'll be very happy about that.
They will, and they will support your
partner.
reading.
It doesn't have to be your spouse. Sorry.
Right. They'll support your reading habits. And then the last one, this one was actually a book I read on a road trip, but the Beasts of the Briar series by Elizabeth Ellen.
I cannot wait to read that.
Yeah, the first book I read, the first and the second book actually, I read on a beach trip.
Maybe I'll read those on spring break. Thanks for the recs.
They're fantasy books. There's a little bit more going on with them.
I said I don't read fantasy on spring break.
They are fantasy. They're white shoes. It's like a Beauty and the Beast retelling kind of deal. And so there's more going on than with a rom-com, but it still hits all those criteria for me. Like they're still funny. There's still the banter. There's good spice. It's quick and it's fun to read, So
I want to interview the 2 authors because they're sisters.
That is,
and how do they look each other in the eye?
I could not write anything like that with my sister.
Because Sarah J. Maas did that interview with Jenna Bush on the Today Show about her mother-in-law being like, "Do you and your husband do this?" So like I'd be looking at my sister and being like, "Your husband's a freak." Can you tell him to have?
Well,
my
and then you wouldn't be able
husband
to look at him in the eye either at Christmas,
Right?
over
Yeah.
Thanksgiving dinner.
You know what? If my daughter-in-law writes stuff like that, I'm not going to ask her if she does that with my kid. You know what I mean?
You're also
Like,
probably not going to read it.
well, that's true. I might read. Well, I would read it.
Is it Kristen Granada that has the forward in her book that's like, "Mom, please stop
I
reading.
think it is,
Don't
yeah.
read this for the love of God."
Well, that brings us into our nerdiest thing of the week. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So our good friend Abby, who you both know, she and I make a yearly trek to IKEA, and she and her stepdad are really good at woodworking. Like, she built her washer and dryer pedestals, and they're like beautiful, and like she
Oh, I
carved
didn't know
stuff
that.
into them. Yeah. And so I really want to make my bookshelves in my front room, which we call the library, which sounds bougie as fuck, but it's just bookshelves, I promise. But I really want
whatever. You know, you're in there with your pipe and your.
Your brandy.
Do you mean my Delta 9 pen? Yes, I am in there with that. And my bottle of Snoop Dogg. So I really want to make my bookshelves look like custom built-ins, though. And so she and I were talking about these Pinterest hacks that you take the bookshelves and you essentially cut down the wood to be like strips in between the bookshelves, right? And then you cut a huge piece of plywood to look like an arch, and you put it over the top.
Oh, that's
and then
cool.
you caulk it all in and put crown molding on. So, I mean, it would be like a long project because I can afford to do all that all
Right,
at once.
right.
But she's going to help me do it. So I'm really
That's
excited.
awesome.
Oh, shout out
That's
to
gonna look
Abby.
really, really
Oh,
good.
shout out to Abby. And then I brought up already that I got accepted to Romanticycon in LA. I'm actually really thrilled about
Yeah,
that.
that's
It's going to be
awesome.
really fun. It's a different type of event. It's much more around like a huge ball gown, like fantasy, like Renaissance type of thing. And so I think it's going to be really different from what we've done. So I can't wait to attend that.
sounds
It's going to
fun.
be great.
It will be fun.
So those are my nerdy things.
Mandy, what about you?
I just have a couple. Two of them are book related, I guess. One this week I found out I got on Thea Claire's permanent arc team. She's
I'm
a
so
new
excited about that
up
for
and
you.
coming indie author, and she writes. I just read her arc for her very first novel called Go Find Less. And it's just really fantastic. It's a plus size heroine, and it's an enemies to lovers. It's got all the good tropes, and she's just a really cool, badass heroine. I really, really love this girl's writing, and she takes a lot from her own experiences. She's gone through some trauma and some struggles, and it just really shows in her work how passionate she is about these characters. So I really highly recommend you read Go Find Less, but I'll be telling you more about all her other things coming out. She actually has a fantasy one that she's working on as well.
Ooh.
We're
So,
working on getting an interview with her too.
yeah, so she's
Awesome.
she's just great. Everybody's going to know her name soon. So that was really fun that I got on that. And then I also found out I'm getting a PR box from Helena Hunting, which is just
Yay.
like dream come true for me. So those were like celebratory moments that probably my whole family was like, what? Like,
That's why you texted us.
exactly. So that's why I have you guys to like celebrate with me. But the other thing is I've been going. So a friend of mine from work was like, we need somebody to fill in for our trivia team. And so I did it one week and just loved it. And they were like, you need to come back because apparently I have like a skill set. Like literally that week, the picture round was all like fantasy creatures, like wyverns and chimera and stuff like that. So like I knew them all, right?
It was
So they were
made
like-
for you.
Exactly. So they were like, you can come back. And so I've been going.
Can Whitney and I just go and drink?
You could. It's at.
I might be helpful.
Where is it?
It's at Tin Roof in St. Matthews.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Super fun. But so I've been doing that. And the first week I went, we got third place. The second week we got second, and last week we got first place.
Yay.
That's exciting.
It was super exciting. We were so happy.
That's
I get
fun.
so pissed off when I don't win trivia. I know that's a shocker.
I can't believe that.
I know.
The funny thing is too is one of the very first questions was about Supernatural.
Was it? What was
So
it? Do
it
you
was
remember?
it was one word TV titles, and it was just basically describing it. It was like two brothers go on just hunt.
That could be-
Supernatural.
That could be a lot of CW shows too, because they had Smallville,
There was
Everwood.
obvious. There was something obvious about it. Like it was
Hunting
so
demons and-
obviously
Yeah.
supernatural.
Yeah.
But the other funny thing about it too is that same round there it was like a black teen goes to L.A. and her dad dates her teacher, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, and we like sat on that for the entire round. Finally, at the end, I was like, do you think it's Moesha? Totally pulled it out of my ass.
What?
And that's what it was.
Candy
that's
friends.
so funny.
Yeah.
That,
So that was fun.
no, I don't think that was on CW either. That was
Moesha-
on UPN.
UPN became
yes.
the WB, which became CW.
Yeah. So it was
There we go.
That was my nerdiest thing of the week. What's yours,
that's
Whitney?
funny. Well, mine is really my sister's because my sister has been reading Crescent City. And it's hilarious to me. She just
I need the Catherine commentary. We've not had it in a while.
She actually hasn't been sending me the commentary as she's reading it. She's reading it and then she's like, I just finished book 1. I really liked it. I'm reading book 2. But she just found like all 3 Crescent City books at her local library. She lives in a smaller town than us. And she's like, I guess nobody like cares about these books here. And I'm like, well, lucky you then.
Yeah.
But she finished Crescent City 2 and basically called to just like yell about the ending, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah.
But the nerdy part was I was telling her, yeah, when I read this ending, it like gave me chills and I loved it and I screamed and
I'm pretty sure I texted you and went, holy shit, you have to read this book.
Yeah,
Like I do every book, but I really meant it that time.
Right. But I like while I was telling her about it, I was like getting goosebumps just thinking about it. And I said, this is my nerdiest thing of the week because I'm getting goosebumps.
I'm going to go ahead and put in a plug and tell you guys in 2 weeks we'll start discussing Crescent City 2.
Yeah.
So get on it, friends.
Yeah. Listen
you
into
want
our
to talk
Thursday
about this
episodes.
ending with us. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, that's it. She's on the Crescent City train. So
Choo choo.
choo choo. Shout out to Catherine.
Shout out to Catherine.
Well, that is it for today's Our Nerdiest Thing episode. Thursday, we are going through our Crescent City primers, getting ready to talk about Crescent City 3. We are reading House of Earth and Blood, Crescent City 1, Part 3, which is The Canyon. It's chapters 38 through 67.
And be sure to stick around because coming up next is our interview with Kate Gately.
Bye. We are live with a very special guest, friend of the podcast, author Kate Gately. Kate writes at her small Cowichan Valley farm on Canada's beautiful Vancouver Island, where she lives with her 1 amazing husband, 2 fantastic sons, and a constantly evolving number of canine, feline, and aviary companions. The first 2 volumes of the Lost Wells trilogy, Tides of the Sovereign and Mantle of the World Ruler, were consecutive winners of the 2022 and 2023 Canadian Book Club Awards for the Best Fantasy Sci-Fi Novel. The trilogy concludes with Severance of the Sorcerer, which, when this releases, will be out and available. So go check it out now. When Kate isn't reading, writing, or wrangling children and animals, she enjoys time in her hobby library, which includes any number of creative side quests. Kate prefers not to wear socks, drinks too much coffee, and forever falls for the cinnamon roll hero. The best way to connect with Kate is on Instagram at Kate Gately Author or through her website, kategately.com. Welcome back to the podcast, Kate. Thank you so much for being on with us today.
Stoked about it. Stoked to be here.
So if you don't like wearing socks, do you just wear shoes without them or does that mean barefoot?
I'm barefoot a lot and I wear shoes without socks, but they're like wool shoes, so they're made for breathing. Or like if I'm wearing
socks.
right? Or if I'm wearing like Blundstones or boots, then I will wear wool socks because they wick and they're comfortable. But otherwise, no, I'm barefoot most of the time. Yeah.
That's so funny because I hate being barefoot.
I think there's sort of 2 camps, like
Yeah.
for people who have opinions about it. Yeah.
That's true. There's no real middle ground with that. That's
Do
funny.
you sleep in socks?
Sometimes in the winter.
Oh, God, no.
If I get cold enough,
Me and Mindy were like, "Oh." Don't
if
do
I
it.
get cold enough, that's like one of my favorite things to be like as covered as possible from head to toe. Like I'll sleep in a hoodie and like put the hood up. If I can get cold enough to get away with that, that is like the dream.
Winter camping. Gotta go winter camping.
My dream is your nightmare, I guess.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't even wear pants to bed. Like, just nothing.
Well, so first of all, congratulations on Severance of the Sorcerer and congratulations on your Canadian Book Club Awards for the first 2 books in the trilogy. That's amazing. That's
Thank
really
you,
exciting.
yeah.
Best
book 2 was just
sci-fi
nominated
fantasy.
for
That's fantastic.
for the forward reviews one. So we just got another nomination for book 2. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, as people are listening to this, book 3, Severance of the Sorcerer, is out and available, and it's the final installment for a trilogy. So tell us a little bit about how it feels, the experience of finishing a series.
Well, for me, I've been done for a while, so it's kind of that, like, it's kind of a funny, like, it's hard marketing a book you've finished, because I'm ready to move on. I'm very like, that last 10% is so hard for me to finish of any project, but then once I get over that hurdle, I'm like, Kate, next project, done, bye.
Yeah.
Don't even want to think about
Pack it away.
Yeah. So that's been a bit unique, but I think it's been really nice because this was such a personal growth journey to write these books, and I feel so like, with closing this chapter, it's very similar to Dom and Julia's story, and I'm just like so excited for all the different, like everything's opened up, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? This is exciting.
Yeah, I read all 3 books and I really, really enjoyed them. And it was nice and a very satisfying, like I felt good at the end, right? Sometimes you finish a series and the emotional roller coaster is like a little too intense and you just feel so emotionally drained, like you need to hibernate.
Like wrung out, right? Yeah.
Yes, and I felt really good after finishing book 3. It was an enjoyable experience. I really liked it.
Good.
I felt
Thank
nice.
you.
I always feel
Yeah.
like that reading your writing. I feel like I hear your voice in my head, like you are my audiobook narrator, and you're just like you have such a calming voice and a calming presence. Maybe that's why.
Thank
Maybe
you.
I'm just
Yeah,
in love with you, Kate.
Well, that works too. It is a happily ever after, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, the ending was it was fun because I always knew, like, I wrote the final scene pretty much from the beginning when I started book 1, just to put a sort of a benchmark for down the road. And I had so much fun weaving together the multiple sort of storylines that happen at the end of book 3, and it just flowed. It was so like, this is how it's going to go, and the characters told me, and it just felt, yeah, like it was, obviously the stakes are high, but it's a really complete package, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I wanted to ask you too, this might sound like a silly question because I have such an immature sense of humor, but so the Lost Wells series, it's fantasy romance, but I would describe it more steamy than spicy. It's not super explicit like some other fantasy books are. And I feel like right now with romance and fantasy romance writers, it's kind of a trendy thing maybe to come up with kind of weird phrases for body parts and weird phrases for things that are going on. Like we've joked around about it a lot on the podcast. And it seems very intentional that you went in the opposite direction of like, we're just going to use biological terms. I'm going to use the word vulva in my sex scenes, and this is what we're going to do. And
that was on purpose.
Yeah, that's why I wanted
to put vulva in this book.
I wanted to just hear about that choice and that decision. And is that about the characters for you, or is that more you and what you are comfortable with? I was just curious because it's markedly different, right, from other romance language.
Yeah, so kind of 2 things. One of my comp titles, although I have more magic in its contemporary, is Outlander, and Diana Gabaldon wrote a great book about how she writes her sex scenes. And she speaks at conferences about it and stuff because she kind of has a really unique take. And I would say her books are steamier than mine in some contexts, but as they go on, not really as much. But I really like, how did she describe it? She was sort of like, we all know what sex is, so like, let's spend time describing the room and how people feel. And like, well, not we all, but most adults reading adult fantasy and romance and stuff have an idea of what that means. So I really liked that perspective because it inspired me as a writer to spend more time trying to create the atmosphere and picture where they are, as opposed to focusing on smut language, although I like reading smut, but it doesn't like I got no problem with it. I enjoy it.
Same here.
Right? It's fun, but it doesn't, like, partly I get really like when I read my own words doing stuff like that, I get so squealy, but like when it's yourself doing it, it's hard. I can read someone else and I'm like, yeah, that's great, but when I do it, I'm like, oh no. I also like to write really consent heavy and really like realistic sex. So for me, that is using real terms and real words, and these characters don't come across because they're sort of devoted to each other and they're very consensual all the time. It doesn't come up a lot, but I was thinking about too, even like, oh, I would love to write in a book if two characters met. Like I would want them to ask about previous partners and STIs and like all that stuff. Like I want that in my books because I want it to be, if anyone picked it up, and I've got, my kids are probably going to read them someday, and I want them to be able to see that it was sort of an intentional voice, and like it suits the characters. Like I can't imagine Dom and Julie not going that other way. Like it just doesn't. It would feel really weird. Like I don't know, it doesn't feel right for them. So, the spin-off series that I'm working on, I'm experimenting a bit more, and I'm not sure. I'm not settled yet on what I want to do.
Well, it was nice to read. I like reading smut too. I mean, obviously, if anybody that listens to this podcast, Mindy, I feel like is like, yeah, that's clear. But it is, at the same time, it is nice to read some more steamy scenes that are more my speed and realistic to my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
well, and I was speaking to someone, a teacher at my kid's school, and he's read the books, and he's like, oh yeah, it's sort of one of those things where it's like, you write romance, and I've read your romance books, and it's hard to sort of think of you as a parent when I've also read your books. And I was like, but they're realistic, right? And he's like, no, you're right, actually, that's a good point. And I was like, I could give you some romance that will make you think differently. Like I could put you in some directions if you want some directions, but I'm telling you, this is pretty authentic, and it's pretty funny. And it's funny too, like I've gotten reviews saying that it's too much on-screen sex, and I've gotten some reviews that are like not enough, and then I've more than once they've been described as being erotic, and I'm like, I would not call my books erotic. Like that is not a word I would like. Sensual, like passionate, honest, like I would agree with raw, but not erotic.
Yeah, sensual and passionate, I think are apt terms.
Yeah. So it's such a scale.
Do you get a lot of messages about that kind of stuff?
No,
like people. Okay.
No, I would imagine romance authors must, though. Like they must get.
Well, I was just reading. I'm reading an arc by another author, Lara Buckheit, who she was at Imaginarium. And I actually emailed her, and because she found a way to say the word pre-cum, but she didn't say pre-cum. She found a way to describe it that I hate that word. Like I really hate. No. And I was like, I knew exactly what she was talking about, but she didn't say that. And so I like texted her. I was like, messaged her. I was like, I just want to tell you, thank you so much. And she was like,
I wish more people would. I would love if more people messaged about that. Like I did have a friend text me being like, thank you for never using moist, or like words like that. Like I'm like, thank you for never doing that. Or like the always the one that comes up that everyone seems to hate is mound. Like don't use that one, and I don't. So but I put ball in because I was like, I don't know. It's like
no, thank you.
The mound, the slick folds.
I can't.
The pleated rim.
Oh no. And it's so
stop it.
Right. And Diana Gabaldon's book, she talks about how like there's a lot of words for male, like penis and balls, like there's a million things, and like they're funny, right? But then her list for like female anatomy was super short, and it was like, okay, there's a whole other book there. Like that's so interesting that we have all these silly words.
Yeah, they sound so much more vulgar. The female parts. I'm like,
they're really like, there's, and it's, I don't know what the etymology of why there's so many more words. That would be, my linguistics brain is like, there's
that's a dissertation. That sounds like a PhD. A PhD project right there. Well, you mentioned some spin-off books. I know that you are continuing on with at least one book with at least some of the same characters from the Lost Wells trilogy. So what can you tell us about that project?
So I'm working on a duology with the character Ronan. He doesn't feel, well, when I finished book 3, I knew that they were done. I actually even struggled to like stay with them because they were sort of drifting away from me a little bit. I had to be quite intentional, but with him, I've got so much story. So I'm currently writing a duology, and I'm challenging myself to write both books at the same time. So I write it as one big book, but then and then hopefully I can release them quite close together. is the goal. They'll be slightly shorter because I mean, without spoilers, obviously Lost Worlds is a happily ever after, so the bad guy gets defeated, but there's still aftermath to the magical world, so it sort of is going to be more of a paranormal romance and sort of like lower fantasy, still contemporary, cleaning up the mess that he made. And so,
Yeah,
but it's still romance.
Right. That's what I was just about to say. There's a lot left with his story because, if anybody that's read the first two books knows that Ronan really like messes up messes up a lot, right? And that's a lot of book 3 is kind of dealing with the aftermath of his choices, but there's a lot that you could do with that. I really like Ronan a lot, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, he goes through it, and
to say the least. Yeah. Yes, he does. Do you have any other writing projects in the works that you can talk about at this point?
I have one that is top secret.
Ooh.
You'll be the first to know. And then I'm also looking into, I really like, what I enjoy reading the most right now is actually in the horror genre and like gothic stuff, and I'm really drawn to and my books have, because they're so genre bending, like there are horror scenes, there are like I'm already playing with those elements. I would love to write like a gothic horror romance. It would be really fun. I also am really drawn towards some speculative fiction and sort of like cult kind of mad, like I don't really know. I've got 2 different stories kind of rolling around, and I'm sort of trying to figure out how I want to approach them. And also, if I would use my same name, like I think I would still like to change genre, if I should be like Casey Gately instead of Kate Gately, or like still have it orient but have a different franchise to it almost. I don't know if you have any feedback about that, because I'm like, I don't know what people do. Like it feels different.
We've talked to a couple of authors, I feel like, that use different names depending on the genre, because Helena Hunting is one of those, isn't she, Mindy?
Yeah, she uses actually 3 different. So she uses Helena Hunting for her like most of her romances, and then she had like a sort of a spin-off, I guess, of her Pucked series, and so she uses no, it's not that one. She's got some like standalones that she uses H Hunting for, and then she just wrote a paranormal romance that she has a totally different name for. So she does that, and it's for her, it's to distinguish, and she feels like it's helpful that way. But I do think doing it along the same vein, like how she's Helena Hunting and H Hunting, like so that there's continuity there. Like so because you've got brand recognition, you want to keep that.
Yeah, I spoke to a romance author who she's really glad because she does kind of like cozy mysteries, and then she does like true romance, and she uses 2 completely different names, but I think I'd be overwhelmed by having a pen name. Like I'd want it still to be me, but just not that. And I think the other thing too I've thought about is like I'm not writing. I don't intend to write out of the adult genre, so like I'm not really at risk of writing like middle grades or kids, and then also writing like erotica or something. Because then you want a different name for sure. Because that feels like an ethical dilemma. But yeah, no, that's good feedback. That's helpful.
Well, I'll be excited to read whatever genre you end up putting out there.
Me too.
Good.
Well, now we're going to move on to our ever popular speed rounds. And
I'm so bad at these, you guys. I don't know.
Well, you've already mentioned you've got like a little library with all kinds of goodies in it. So we're going to talk about your Vibreats, Kate's Vibrate, and not vibrator. Like this is like the vibes. I mean, I know people know what this podcast is about, but no, we're just going to talk about this is like recommending a book for when you are feeling a certain vibe.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So the first one is when you want to kick your feet and giggle while reading.
Katie Robert, for sure. I love Katie Robert.
I know you love her.
Delightful.
When you want to cry.
Oh, I don't really typically ever really want to cry. Do that enough on my own. Canadian literary fiction is really sad. If I want to, it is serious and like emotional, and like I don't even know how they do it, but for some reason that like the contemporaries in Canadian fiction tend to be really heavy. So yeah, if I want to like have an emotion time, probably I can't name one specifically, but that would be where I would go.
Well, on the flip side, when you want a happily ever after.
Lost Wells trilogy by Kate Gately.
Of course. I like it. When you're curled up with a blanket on a rainy day.
I listen to audiobook a lot. So if I was curled up on a blanket, I would probably be reading like Lore Olympus on my phone or something. Like it would probably be something I can zone out to and cuddle in and yeah.
Cozy up.
Yeah.
All right. When you need to unwind from a rough day with your chickens.
Probably I'm audiobooking like horror or gothic horror. Like not thrillers, like nothing too scary, but something that's like really immersive and just
awesome.
Takes me out of my mood.
And the last one in this is when you're procrastinating from something.
Oh, and that's like a hard answer because I would probably be writing. Like if I procrastinate, I'm probably being like, look, I'm writing. I'm doing work.
I'm being productive.
Yeah. I'm probably writing if that's the case.
All right, so we're going to move on to another little mini speed round here. This is yay or nay fantasy edition. So just yay or nay. First one is romantasy.
Yay.
AI fueled technology.
Nay.
Post-apocalyptic landscape.
Somewhere in between. Depends.
Paranormal powers or creatures.
Yay.
Yeah, I knew that one. Training scenes, either warrior or magical.
As long as it's balanced with like romance. Like I don't like straight acting.
Like as long as they're shirtless.
Sure. Tension. Somebody's competing.
Like Cassian vibes.
Finally, damsel in distress.
Nay, yay, nay. I'll expand on this one a little bit just because you guys were there for this too. So normally I would say nay, but then remember Roseanne Brown at our Imaginarium panel had talked about how valuable it is actually for damsels to be, especially in BIPOC characters, to be rescued and to be someone who deserves to be saved and all that. So my answer would have been nay, but I think it's yay. Now that I know, now that I've been educated,
a little different perspective. Yeah. I like when the girl saves the guy. I think that's awesome too.
Yeah.
All right, so we know that you're going to be at a Polycon, and that Deb is lucky enough to get to hang out and be your assistant.
Yeah.
But do you have any other like conventions or events that you'll be attending?
This is a quieter year for me. I'm doing a bunch of launches around my book locally. So I'm doing in Couch and Bay, I'm doing a launch with like musical guests, and we're having a band, and so it'll be kind of more of a Q&A and a reading and just kind of a party on the ocean. And then I'm doing there's a new Canadian romance bookstore called blissbooks.ca, and she's just lives half an hour down from me, so we're doing kind of a cool bookstore co-launch kind of stuff. That's awesome. And then up and down the island. And then I'm actually, because I have that quilt pattern collection that goes with the series, I'm actually going to be at Quilt Canada in Edmonton, which is between the mountains and the prairies, kind of. If that helps. In Alberta, and it's the big Canadian quilting convention, so that'll be. And surprisingly, when I go to those events, the quilt events, I think I'm going to sell fabric and actually end up talking to readers, because there's a real crossover between quilters and readers in the audiobook, and so it'll be a fun one to sort of really find another. Yeah, it's a really great way to connect with the demographic that that aligns with the way that I write my sex scenes. That those guys typically prefer that, so it's sort of it's a great psychographic space to enter. And next year I've got 2 or 3 conventions booked for 2025, so busier year next year, but I mean, maybe something will come up in the fall. I feel like in the fall I need to wind down, not wind up. So
yeah. Are you able to still read, like, just for yourself in seasons like this when you're marketing a book and you've got these events coming up and everything? Are you able to sit down with a book and read when you feel like it, or is it really just like, no, I'm working right now?
I audiobook. Like while I'm after school with the kids or whatever, I'll do that. I still get books into me. I know sitting down and reading is not zero possible. But in the summer, I'm hoping. It's been a really long time since I've actually read a physical book other than my own stuff. So
have you been listening to books that you have already listened to before, so that you can, like you talked earlier about, like kind of zoning out? Do you do that with like repeat listens, or are you able to do that with books that are new to you also?
I used to do that a lot more, like same food listing, like just books that I know are good. Now I try to just go out of genre. That's just for entertainment. I'm listening to Together We Rot right now, just because it has good reviews and it's really lighthearted.
Deb loved that.
Yeah, it's really cute. It's really cute, and it's like I don't really intend to move into YA, but I'm really enjoying how it's being handled, and I don't.
Yeah, that's still
maybe
on my
know
list.
the ending, but I don't know. Yeah,
I'll get to it. Maybe, I don't know.
I know it's on mine too.
Yeah, I just listened to like a really long book called Fane, and it's a Canadian author. It was like 700. It was like 30 hours. It was
oh wow,
big for me. I write big books, and it's way bigger than me. So, really wonderful contemporary, historical, not contemporary, like historical fiction, kind of heavy. But it's so out of what I'm doing that I can tolerate it. Kind of, I wouldn't. Right now, I wouldn't be reading any romantasy or anything like that. Not until I'm ready for a break. Yeah,
it hits too close to home.
and I end up binging those books, and like that's the thing too. Like these books, I can listen to piecemeal. Like I can listen to in pieces, and I'm like okay to come back to them tomorrow. And if I get I haven't actually read Sarah J. Maas yet because I know when I do, I'm going to be lost.
It's going to consume you.
Yeah, because I'll have to read them all. Like I'm not capable of doing things in small bites when I really like a series, and I know this one's going to get me. So,
well, when you do, sorry, go ahead, Mindy.
I was just going to say, I totally feel that because, I teach and so I get summers off, and I've been saving all my fantasy reads for the summer because I can't invest so much during the school year because I'm just constantly busy.
So, or you don't sleep then. You're like going to school.
That happens too.
Yeah, that's my problem too. So be careful. I know myself. We know ourselves. It's okay.
Yeah. Whenever you do start reading Sarah J. Maas, be sure and message us your thoughts as you read. Because we love getting messages of like, okay, I just read like this part, and it's like one of my favorite things is to get messages from people reading those books.
Well, you have to. I'm still polling everyone about like which order to do everything in because it's obviously a very topic seems to
ask
be
100 people and you'll get 100 answers. I feel like
100 different answers.
The only really clear one is it's like don't start with Crescent City, but I'm so demand avoidant that I'm just like maybe I will. My one friend was like, I know that you feel that way, but I'm telling you as a friend, don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah, don't start with Crescent City for sure.
Yeah, that's okay.
So we're gonna wrap up, I guess, but we also have one more question. I think you know what that is. We always end every podcast with talking about what our nerdiest thing of the week is, and we would love to hear what your nerdiest thing of this week or this month or whatever.
I'm going to go non-book related just because it's also nerdy. I have geese and the one goose. They're all in season right now, which is a little horrifying, but they're not very nice. And I've got 2 males and a female, and weren't sure if they would sort of settle out. And the one is just sort of like mean, and he's separated from them. So I need to rehome a goose. So that's like my farm nerdy thing. Because he's just not fitting in. Yeah, that's sort of my like conundrum that I'm like, I don't really have time for this. But anyways, that's what's happening.
You have a goose outcast.
Yeah. His name's Rigel. He's not very nice. He bit me, he bit Scott. I'm like, this is not an aggressive breed. So he needs a farm to guard and his own lady friend. So
and his own lady friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can anybody put up with his attitude, though, is the question.
I mean, he's kind of maintenance. He bites.
That's tough.
Some people like that. I don't know.
Well, fingers crossed for him and for you. Well, thank you so much, Kate, for being on with us. We always love to talk to you, whether it's through like messaging on Instagram or getting to talk to you sort of face to face. Have a great time at a Polycon with Deb. You've got a good partner in crime there.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And congratulations again on the Severance of the Sorcerer and your book awards and nominations. It's lots of exciting things.
Thank you.
Like what you heard in this episode? Follow Our Nerdiest Thing on Instagram at instagram.com/Our Nerdiest Thing or Facebook at facebook.com/Our Nerdiest Thing. We love hearing from fellow nerds. Email us at ournerdiestthing@gmail.com.